Anybody home?
Today, I want you to open your mind.
I've almost come to the conclusion that the story is so damning that the mass of people can't deal with it.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques to get people actually to love their servitude.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
To change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time.
If you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, then you have a much more easily controllable society than you would if you were relying wholly on clubs and firing squads and concentration camps.
Tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and fallout. There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices.
As you connect the dots between different people, organizations, religions, history, suddenly the picture starts to form.
The kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men.
Someone born in the United States is not more special than someone born in Mexico. They're just vehicles for the consciousness to experience.
They do not want your children to be educated. They do not want you to think too much.
It was learned that the aliens had been and were then manipulating masses of people through secret societies, witchcraft, magic, the occult, and religion.
They reach into our children. Music, television, books.
Prey on children's innocence.
How can I disprove lies that are stamped with an official seal?
So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it feels like an altar to an alien god.
Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc is now in the possession of the Army.
Too many others know what's happening out there, and no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete. A case to be filed under M for Mankind in the Twilight Zone.
About time some of you got acquainted with the real hard truth.
If you don't connect the dots, it's just a mass of what's all this about.
I'm your host, Ryan Gable. It is Friday, April 24th, 2026. pstradio.info is the website. rdgable, rdgable@yahoo.com is the email. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Secret Teachings. If you're watching the video of this, it will be a back-to-back video show on YouTube and other social media platforms. Last night's 5-hour and change special is in the archive. It is free to listen and watch on YouTube. First half hour is completely free of advertisements, no matter what archive you're in. Our eulogy, farewell, my piece, if you will, to one Mr. David Wilcock. Tonight, for those of you who are new listeners, whether you're new on the video stream or you're new in the audio archive, I know we've got several thousand new listeners. A significant portion will probably be tuned into tonight's show, expecting me to maybe do another show that I did last night. People think that I cover last night's subject every night, and I obviously don't. Maybe you'll find that you actually enjoy this show, and what you've heard about me online is a little bit contrary to what I actually do. Tonight's show is called Sex Sells, but artificial intelligence is cheaper. And obviously from the promo picture, I think it's pretty clear what the show is about, but it might not be as clear as I think when I see those images of a bunch of random people. I know that they're AI, I know that they're not real. I know that they're fake. I think it's pretty clear that they're fake. There are some things that sometimes convince me that they're real when they're not. I understand that a lot of people are likewise, especially if you're probably not as technologically savvy as some people are. I'm not that technologically savvy. You can get fooled. You can get fooled pretty easily, especially for older people. They look at these types of things and believe them. And that's actually why these images that you see on your screen right now, if you're only in the audio archive, you obviously can't see these images, but just kind of random looking people. There's like a girl with too much makeup. There's a black woman. There's like an older guy. There's like a middle-aged man. And this is supposed to appeal to a wide audience, young women, young men, quote, minorities, I guess. It's like a bunch of different, and it's supposed to encourage you to support whatever the thing is that these people are talking about. So, for example, maybe it's the current White House. Maybe it's the conflict in Iran. Maybe it's some new product. Doesn't matter what it is. Most of the major accounts and major influencers, if they're not literally fake, like they're created by a system, like a generative adversarial network, a GAN, I believe it's called. They're created by some kind of artificial intelligence, some kind of chatbots generate these types of things as well. If you ask for it, put in the right prompt. Some people are very real, of course, but they just copy and paste responses because they're paid to do that. You've seen a lot of influencers who are influenced by money, and that's why they post what they post. You've seen this of some of the biggest influencers, especially on the political right. And oh, how people forget how just a few years ago it was how the political left was just filled with the same types of fake accounts, people with like a rainbow flag and a syringe and a bunch of Ukrainian flags and other things next to their profile picture. And then the person actually wasn't real. We saw this over and over and over and over and over again during the Biden administration. And people were willing to talk about that because it was a big conservative right-wing conspiracy. And then we found out that the right-wing conservatives were doing the same thing. And maybe it's because the technology has advanced more quickly, or maybe it's because they're choosing to employ it in a more direct manner than a previous administration. I think it's more so because the technology has advanced and it seems like everybody is using AI. We looked at a video last night with Mike Adams, who, by the way, has, to his credit, sort of apologized and walked back his statements about Mr. Wilcock. But Mike Adams had made a video that was completely false from the start to the finish of what we played. And he just used AI-generated nonsense rather than actually reading police reports or listening to the police dispatch. And that's pretty much what most content is on the internet. That's pretty much what most influencers are. That's pretty much what most of the major accounts and platforms that host alternative conversations are. It's just nonsense. It's just garbage. It's just fake. It's just made up. And the one that really has gotten to me is this. It comes out of nowhere. Like my algorithm, for example, my algorithm right now is focused almost entirely on the secret space program and various new age conspiracies. My entire X page is just filled with that. But then for some reason, just random things will pop up. Like, for example, I have this one video that popped up of these two women dancing in bikinis. And at first, I honestly thought it was like an advertisement because it was just so out of place. And then I read the title or whatever, the handle, and it wasn't an advertisement. It was from this account, you can see this in the image, called IDF Babes. And yes, that is the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF Babes. And if you click on their account, it's literally just softcore pornography and Instagram models. And I think most of them are totally AI, trying to convince you to support the IDF, as if some half-naked fake women on the internet are supposed to convince me to support slitting the throat of a child and throwing them off of a building. As if some half-naked AI women are supposed to convince me that the IDF forcing dogs to rape prisoners, and then they beat the prisoners half to death and force the dog to have bestial sex with them. I'm supposed to forget that because there's some fake tits on the internet, which is really what it is. And it's weird too, because of all the propaganda, because of all the things that you could create to try to convince the public of something. And then and in this case, they is anybody who utilizes these types of videos, these types of images. But that's what I mean by they in this case. Like anybody who does this, they just certainly they use other methods to convince you. Like the whole internet is just one big advertisement and one big platform of just fake, everything's fake. But at the same time, there are some things on the internet that are real. Like, for example, these videos of people dancing after the US started bombing Iran. And in some of these videos, they're not AI, and they're not necessarily influencers, and they're not necessarily softcore pornography. They're not even necessarily sexual. They're just some people dancing and saying, hey, we're so happy Iran is being bombed by the Americans. And then it turns out that in those cases, it's not AI. It's not even sexual. It's not explicit. But it turns out that those people are actually Mossad, or they're IDF, or in other cases, maybe it's something involving the CIA, or in other words, it's just fake. I mean, in some cases, you don't even see the people at all. Like, for example, in the case of what happened in Venezuela. What happened in Venezuela was that we had just like a random thing that was posted, just totally random. And that random thing that was posted was something about how the U.S. invaded Venezuela, and it was just so incredible. They were firing missiles and machine guns, and that nobody's ever seen a gun fire 300 rounds per, what was it, like per minute. It's like, I think I've shot a gun that fires that. Just total nonsense garbage. And that was being pushed and promoted as proof of how great the U.S. military was. And then you read the stories of what actually happened, and that, well, about a dozen U.S. soldiers were injured and a bunch of U.S. equipment was damaged, but they didn't want to tell you that because that, of course, damages the reputation of the U.S. and doesn't make it seem as successful as an operation as they told us it was. And the same thing, of course, is happening in Iran. The same thing is happening in virtually every segment and sector and fragment of society. Because I guess it's just easy to produce this stuff and not put any effort or any work into propaganda anymore. I mean, I've said this before, but propaganda is getting really lazy. Like really, really lazy. I mean, the Iranians are making these Lego propaganda videos, and I've watched even left-wing and right-wing sources, both, that have just like looked at those videos and then compared them to what the White House has had published, and it's like it's not even like you didn't even try. There was one video I watched. It was literally a bomb exploding in Iran, and then a clip of SpongeBob, the episode where they were like the Justice League, and SpongeBob was the Quickster. He could run really fast like the Flash. And he says, you want to see me run to that mountain? Want to see me do it again? He doesn't look like he moves. It's a great episode. But the White House literally just used a SpongeBob clip for their propaganda. You see a bomb blow something up. SpongeBob says, "You want to see me do it again?" Like, I actually got a laugh out of that because I love SpongeBob, but it's really lazy propaganda. It's like, I want to say it's not even amateurish propaganda. It's just, and maybe the people that are making it aren't stupid per se, or that they're not ignorant, or they're not slow. Maybe they're making it because the general public is ignorant and lazy and slow, and that's what is appealing. I mean, considering that the Iranians have IQ on average about 10 points higher than Americans, it makes sense that their propaganda would be intellectual and would actually say something that, in all the cases I've seen, are actually directly true, like factually, verifiably true. I mean, you could verify most of it in the DOJ archives, but American propaganda is reduced to literally a video of SpongeBob being like, "You want to see me bomb that school again? You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again?" It's like, who put this together? This is awful. But again, it's like Juvenal said about bread and circuses. It's the public that demands those things. It's the public that wants that type of content. They don't want to have to think about it. And that's where this sexualization, this sexual propaganda, or sexual genocide, or whatever you want to call it, comes into play. Because maybe people that are on the fence would be willing to stare at some half-naked fake women on the internet, and maybe it would convince them to support the IDF. It's like, I don't really know much about this war, but that woman's got some big titties, so I'm definitely in support of blowing up a school. And you can get a laugh out of that. You can joke about it, and there's a time and place for that. I'm not really the person who wants to do that on my show, but to me, I find it kind of repulsive, because it's not just lazy propaganda. It's not just bad propaganda. It's not just that it's sexualized or sexual propaganda. It's that to convince you that starting a war, or to convince you that blowing up a hospital or blowing up a school is a good thing. There's not even an attempt to, like, I don't know if, like, I guess the mass, the mass population that might be, I guess, somewhat uninterested in what's going on, which I think is the majority, or just doesn't know, that what they're presented with is like, well, you might not care what's going on, you might not have an opinion one way or the other, but, like, look at these hot women. I mean, that just is. It feels like every news cycle, the IQ, the attention span, everything just, like, kind of drops off a little bit more. It just gets a little bit worse every single time, and it's bizarre. It's very, very bizarre. I don't know what to really make of it. It's something that I look at, and I'm surprised more people are not talking about it. I'm surprised more people are not, and I don't mean people in the sense of, like, you as an audience. I mean, like, I'm kind of surprised it's not more well known. I'm kind of surprised it's not more talked about even in the mainstream, because, like, when the left did it, the right was ready to expose it. I mean, there are some articles from the NBC and the New York Times, kind of left-leaning sources, that are criticizing the right's usage of these things. But I think that it's like with Jeffrey Epstein. Both sides are so heavily involved, and nobody really wants to call out the other one, because it would then expose themselves. I think that's what it is. If you're just joining the show, again, this is TST Radio. rdgable@yahoo.com is the email. tstradio.info is the website. Check out last night's 5-hour show. It's in the archive for free. It's also here on our YouTube page. I want to welcome all of you who are listening, and especially the listeners who are long-term listeners who show up every week. I really appreciate that. If you're a new listener, thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you'll check out our full archive, and maybe you'll find something else that you like in the archive other than what we discussed last night. Let's look at some of these stories. I pulled some of these stories up on the internet so you could see. I think one of the most important ones is the one that's sort of, I've lost track of what's going on with Iran because of what happened the last few days. But this is something that I kept in a notepad about these 8, quote, Iranian women who were supposed to be executed by the Iranian regime. And I did not talk about this when this story was first posted. This was April 20th, and you probably know why I didn't discuss it, considering what else was going on. But when I first saw this, I thought, okay, those are all AI generated. Those are all fake. Those are not real. And what they're going to do is they're going to show you all of this. They're going to tell you that there is a crazy Iranian government that wants to kill a bunch of innocent women. And then the president's going to say, don't do that. And then the Iranians will say, okay, you got us. We won't do it. And then Trump's a hero and Iran's the bad guy. And it's just another way to sort of save face in a really bad situation. And lo and behold, that is what happened over the last week. The president posts this, which, by the way, he didn't even post it directly. He reposted something somebody else posted. And it's very clearly 8 fake images, all with the same lighting, all with the same background, very clearly fake. And there's no evidence provided of who these women are. There might have been like a fake background given, a sentence or two on one website or another, but there's no background of who these women are. The initial post just says, breaking, the Islamic Republic is preparing to hang 8 women. Not a word from the international community or so-called human rights organizations. Well, there probably isn't a word from them because they're too busy analyzing the white phosphorus that's being dropped on Lebanon. But that's all that it says. And that's what the president reposted. The president said to the Iranian leaders, who will soon be in negotiations with my representatives, which that in and of itself is absurd propaganda, because how many times have they been in, quote, negotiations? How many times they've been in negotiations and killed the negotiators? How many times they've been in negotiations and then we find out the Iranians said, we're not even negotiating. We've cut off ties. Why do they keep saying they're negotiating with us? I mean, this is literally 1984. The president went on to say, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I am sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. Would be a great start to our negotiations. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I'm sure the Iranians are watching it. They're reading all of these posts. I'm sure they're very, very worried about what the president is saying. The only person reading that is a Trump supporter. The only people reading that are people making fun of it. The only people posting it and promoting it are people that are part of the propaganda machine, whether they know it or they don't know it. I think it's pretty clear what it is. And then we look at who posted it. Eyal Yacobi. This is someone who I believe about 6 months ago blocked me on X because I said that what he was posting was fake. Who is this person? Well, Eyal Yacobi, Eyalyakoby. You wouldn't be surprised to learn who he is. I'll read you his little biography. Eyal Yacobi is a senior at the University of Pennsylvania studying political science and modern Middle East studies. He is concerned about the direction in which college campuses are heading and wants to help spread facts about Israel and the Jewish people. Oh, and there it is. That's what the president posted. This guy, an Israeli activist, concerned about Iranian women, which is strange because literally within the last month, these same people, the Israeli activists, Israeli spies, and the president said that they're going to exterminate 92.4 million people in Iran, including these 8 women. So for some reason, we just keep going back and forth. I'm pretty sure this is kind of like the definition of insanity. First, it's we're liberating you, go overthrow your government. Then it's, well, actually, we're liberating the women because they can't wear makeup, they can't have their hair uncovered, which is not in context and not true. And then even with this picture, you see that these women have their hair completely exposed, all with the same backgrounds, the same lighting. I guess they took their headscarf off. That's why the Iranian regime wants to hang them, even though that's not a hangable offense. But, who cares about facts, right? So then it was turned into, we're just going to bomb everything, desalination, oil, anything that power plants. And then it was obviously never a war, but then it was a war we won. Then it wasn't a war. The strait was open. It wasn't. It is. It is. And it is. It is. And it is. It isn't. And then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And now we get to this point where we're back to negotiations, and Iran's going to kill a bunch of innocent women. But this is the same president who just said a few days ago that he's going to kill those 8 women when he destroys the country. So which is it? This is important to rehash, to say over and over and over again, because it is a sign that we live as Americans under an incredibly dangerous authoritarian system that has no regard whatsoever for the truth, for reality, for facts, for context, for anything. All these people care about is the momentary moment of narrative. That's it. They don't care about anything else. Whatever the narrative is that day, that moment, that's where the concern is. And it shifts. It shifts hourly sometimes. Here is Jacoby with President Trump. This is from his official X page. Here is Jacoby with President Trump. See, I'm blocked. Well, I think I blocked him too. Eyal Jacoby with President Trump wearing a yarmulke. So that's apparently just okay for a Christian president to put on the religious garb of another religion and then use this guy's, I guess, these images. I don't know if he took them or the Iranians took them. I mean, these women are clearly fake. Like, this is so bad that it appears that they want people like me and people like you to see how obviously fake it is. Like, unless this is meant just for boomers or something, I feel like this is meant to show us that, like, hey, it's obviously this is fake. Hey, obviously we're making this up. Obviously this isn't real. Do something about it. You're not even willing to acknowledge that it's fake. You're certainly not going to do something about it. And that's where we're left with it. It is it's a disturbing thing because we, in recognizing this, we acknowledge something else. We acknowledge that this is psychotic. This is irrational. This is dangerous. And it's this type of leadership, this type of psychosis that we've been told all throughout our schooling, all in the entertainment industry, etc. It's this kind of psychosis that leads to what? Genocide. Here's the Trump post about a civilization dying tonight, never being brought back again on April 7th. And then here's the president on April 20th. This is what, 2 weeks later, saying we have to save these 8 women who just 2 weeks ago, the president himself said he was going to kill. And I don't think that anybody else has addressed that, even on the left, even in opposition to the White House. Our government said, we're going to kill everybody, including these 8 women. And then a few days later, we say, actually, we have to save these 8 women. So what is this? What am I looking at here? And why is the president taking something from some university student as intelligence of what the Iranian regime is going to do? I mean, seriously, look at how, if you're listening to the show, you obviously can't see this, but you can look at the promo picture tonight at least. You won't see these 8 women, but you'll see something equivalent to it. You'll see some other stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. But you look at these women. I mean, it's very clearly fake, right? Like, it's not my imagination. This is very, 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 very fake, right? This is like absurdly fake. I'd say the most fake is this girl here at the bottom left, one up from the bottom on the bottom left, like very clearly AI. This is not real. Why is the president wanting to kill these women and then wanting to save them the very next 2 weeks later? And why is he posting stuff from some Jewish activist who himself looks fake? Like, this guy just looks totally fake. He looks like he's Mossad. He's probably 35 years old in, quote, school in Pennsylvania. And right on cue, just like I was expecting to happen, now the president says that Iran won't execute those women after he demanded their release. And that's just how it goes. They show you fake images. They create this fake narrative, this fake script. And then the public demands something to be done. The Iranians are totally confused. They're thinking, that's not real. We don't have any of those people aren't even real, but we certainly don't have them in our custody. But you don't hear that because there's a gate on the news. And then after a few days of pumping the president up, suddenly they announce good news. Iran's decided not to kill these poor women. And you say, okay, so they've been released. Can we talk to them? Oh, no, you can't talk to them. Why can't I talk to them? They've been traumatized by the ordeal. So I can't, there's not like an interview with them. I can't get like a little snippet of what they had to say. Absolutely not. You can't look at them. You can't talk to them. You can't hear what they have to say. Well, I don't know. To me, it kind of sounds like you're covering something up. No, we're not covering anything up. I don't know. It kind of sounds like they're not real. Kind of sounds like they're not real people. Let's see what the president and what the White House and so on had to say about this. According to the New York Post, President Trump announced Wednesday that Iran will no longer execute 8 women after he pleaded Tuesday for their freedom, calling it very good news in a social media post. Yes, the president pleaded for the freedom of 8 women who just a few days ago he was planning to murder. That makes sense. Trump wrote this on Truth Social. I have just been informed that the 8 women protesters who were going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. 4 will be released immediately, and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as President of the United States and terminated the planned execution. Now remember, these are also people that are supposed to be totally insane, radical religious clerics who are out of their minds. Trump got them to back down, though. All this is wag the dog. As always, it's a production. It's not real. It's fake. The announcement came hours after Trump extended a 2-week ceasefire with Iran as negotiators await Tehran's reply to the latest American offer to end the nearly 2-month conflict. Remember, that was supposed to be 2 weeks. Iran's judiciary denied that the 8 women were ever set for execution, claiming that Trump was misled once again by fake news, and that some of them have been released while others face charges that, if convictions are upheld, would at most result in imprisonment. I suppose by reading that, Iran is saying that maybe some of them are real, but some of them are not real, because they say that Some of them are facing charges. So maybe some of the women are real, but some of them have also been released already. I don't know what the official Iranian statement is on this, or even if the Iranian statement is the Iranian statement. That could also have been created by the White House or by the Israelis. Now, they claim Bita Himati was sentenced to death for allegedly being part of a group that threw objects onto Iranian forces during protests in January. Her case was reported last week by the U.S.-based human rights activist news organization and the Abdurrahim Bormund Center. The same woman and 4 men were convicted of participation in protest gatherings. Why are we not saving the men then? We're just saving the women. Protest gatherings on January 8th and 9th, 2026, including chanting protest slogans, throwing objects, including bottles, concrete blocks, and incendiary materials from rooftops, and destruction of public property, the activist news agency said. 2 of the 8 have been out on bail since March, however, according to the Norway-based Iran Human Rights Organization. And we don't need to get into the specific details of any more of this, but suffice to say that this story is fake. Either way you cut it, either way you slice it, it's fake. Now we'll go to the chat briefly here. Jackie in the chat is asking, what country are these women supposed to be from? I'm assuming they're supposed to be from Iran. That's the impression that I get. They seem to, I feel like they don't all look like they are, but we can totally, if I don't trust Eliel Yacobi, then I'm an anti-Semite, so I have to trust them. I have to trust this random guy at a university in Pennsylvania because he knows. I have to trust him, Jackie. Jackie says, I asked because they have a lot of makeup on for such a suppressive society. Yeah, we'll see. I kind of alluded to that already. Seem to have their hair down. They have a ton of makeup on, which then, if that's the case, no one is claiming, the White House, Iran, no one is claiming that these women are being held because of what they're wearing or how they're dressed. So then, in other words, the president's reposting is in conflict with all the other propaganda we were told about how the Iranians don't let women put makeup on. They cut their eyes out for it, like one American congressman said, and they don't let them let their hair down. So which is it? And then it's in contradiction with, I hope that you can find the video of Anthony Bourdain going to Iran, to Isfahan and Tehran, going to, I believe they went to a bowling alley, and just the whole episode, everywhere they went, it's just women walking around without their heads completely covered. And the only people that actually really truly enforce it are a bunch of religious fanatics. It wasn't even the government. Like Anthony Bourdain was actually temporarily halted when he was in Tehran, not by the government, by a bunch of religious fanatic men that stopped them on the street and wanted to see their permit. It wasn't even the government. It wasn't law enforcement. It was a bunch of radical, crazy guys. So which is it? And besides, what about the background and the lighting? No one's explained that yet. So please, someone explain that if you know the reason. Why do they all have the same background and the same exact white lighting around their head? It just makes no sense. And this is important. It's not just important because of Iran. It's important because it shows us 2 things. It shows us that the king of exposing fake news is responsible for spreading some of the most ridiculous fake news imaginable. It also shows, point 2, that what we're looking at here is a regime, a society as a whole, that has so little regard for the public, so little regard for the truth, so little regard for human life, so little regard for the facts, that they are outright dangerous. They're dangerous in every way imaginable. I don't know if this story is true, but it would be on par for the course if it is true a few days ago that generals had to stop the president from activating, pushing the red button and dropping nukes on Iran. I heard that initially and thought, well, that's just a made-up story. And then I heard it again, and then I heard some generals talking about it, and I thought, okay, that might actually be true. Amber Geddon in the chat says, I believe these women are fake AI pics, or if they are real, they're Mossad, not Iranian. Well, that's probably a pretty healthy assessment, especially considering that, as I've showed you numerous times on the show, I'll show you again, the Mossad was instrumental in trying to overthrow the Iranian regime just a few weeks ago, just a few months ago. And they failed in that. Israel thought they could spur rebellion inside of Iran, but they failed. The Mossad was in Iran, and in fact, several Mossad agents had actually been arrested. One of them, I believe, had been executed for being responsible for the riots and the protests in Iran, which, by the way, we weren't allowed to see that either. But we were told by the New York Post that it was true because there was a pile of shoes. Remember that? There's a pile of shoes. That pile of shoes was proof that there was a mass murder that was carried out, a mass genocide against protesters that was carried out. Of course, I suppose you don't need bodies. You just, as long as there's a pile of shoes. This seems to be a pretty consistent thing. If there's a pile of shoes, if there's a pile of blankets, if there's a pile of shoes and clothes together, a pile of clothes separate, a pile of, I don't know, razors or a pile of hairbrushes. I mean, really, if there's a large quantity of anything, then usually it indicates that a mass genocide has taken place. Matter of fact, I have the headline here I was looking for. I found it. I had to go to my new book, Protocols of Goyim, to find it. Here's the New York Post article about that. Haunting images or image shows pile of abandoned shoes after Iran's bloodthirsty regime burned protesters to death. Iranian Holocaust. I'm surprised they even bequeath that word to the Iranians. They don't deserve that word. They're not worthy of being victims of a Holocaust. Which, of course, reminds me of this. I know that this is a controversial thing to say. It's so crazy to show historical documents, but let me show you one here. I'll show you a couple of them, as a matter of fact. Here's three. Okay, I've got 3 screenshots here. Actually, it might be better to just do this. Hold on a second. I'll just show you the book itself. I'll show you my book. So you can see it directly rather than just pulling up screenshots. It's kind of like this. There's a chapter from my book, Protocols of Goyim. This is a section about Auschwitz, German Crimes in Poland report, published in 1946 by the Central Commission for the Investigation of German Crimes in Poland. This is an official report. You can read this online for free. I've got sections of the book in my book. And it shows interesting things like piles of laundry as proof of extermination. But as I ask in the book, is that pile of laundry also proof in any standard hotel that the hotel guests were murdered? Or as people are asking in the chat tonight, I see Jackie asking, I see Combat Medic asking, why aren't they burning the shoes? Well, they made people take their shoes off and then they killed them. They made these protesters take their shoes, or what did they do? They hit them so hard with a club that it knocked them out of their shoes. It's just absurd. That must have been what happened. These protesters popped their shoes off when they got popped in the head by an Iranian rifle or an Iranian club, which, the equivalent of this would be like going to, I don't know how many of these are in the US, but if you go to, say, a Buddhist temple or any shrine that you go inside, but especially a temple, you can't wear your shoes inside. In fact, there's a lot of places, a lot of businesses you go here in Japan, you go to health clinics, you have to take your shoes off, put slippers on. So I'm guessing that if you just went to any Buddhist temple and you took a picture of the shoes outside, that would be proof that Buddha and the monks inside have murdered all of the pilgrims. Is that what I'm to understand? This is absurd. It is obscene. So I'm supposed to believe that, in this case, shaving brushes, that every single person who was rounded up at Auschwitz was in possession of literally one of like 3 shaving brushes. Must have been a great shaving brush that they only bought the best. I'm supposed to believe that all the people that were rounded up at Auschwitz used like one of 3 or 4 different combs. I'm supposed to believe that the people rounded up at Auschwitz they all used like the same glasses. Or maybe these were stockpiles of things like glasses and hairbrushes, and stockpiles of like things like, in this case, wooden legs or prosthetics that maybe were used to help people that were in the camp. Or maybe these legs were confiscated because in some cases, if they were wooden, they could have rotted. They could have been, a potential hazard. And also, why would you shave people's heads? Murdered women's hair is what this one's called. Why would you shave people's heads if you're just going to exterminate them? You can make jokes and say, well, come on, Ryan, everybody knows that, oh, yeah, sure, Auschwitz. But no, these are serious questions. They're not just serious questions about Auschwitz. They're serious questions about what's happening in Iran right now. Because the same propaganda literally is being used about Iran. Look, there's some shoes on the side of the road. That must mean the Iranian government killed those protesters. I don't think that's what it means. I don't think that's what that means. I think what it means is someone took a picture of shoes and then they published it and used it to imply that a bunch of people were murdered. That's what I think. And I think the same thing was done with glasses and combs. That's what I think. And not only am I allowed to think that just based on the principles of free speech, but I'm allowed to think that because it's a rational, logical thing to think. And even if I didn't think that it had validity, I have a right to think it because I have a right to think freely. I have a right to speak my mind. That often gets lost in the mix of all of this. So this is just horrendous propaganda. It's like awful, terrible propaganda. But we've been so conditioned with it that we tend to believe it without question. Especially because if you sometimes ask questions, what happens is you're just called a bunch of names. Misto Stokos in the chat said, I have a pile of shoes inside my door because we don't wear outside shoes inside. That's probably a pretty healthy thing to do. We obviously do the same thing over here. There's a little tiny space. You take your shoes off, you position them so when you leave the house, you can step into them with a little shoe. What do they call that? Not a shoe horn, but like a shoe, wooden shoe stick, whatever they call. I forget what they call that in Japanese. So you take your shoes off before you come in the house. I guess next step is genocide. You come home to relax. Turns out you're actually being put into a firing squad. I guess that's how it works. It's just ridiculous. Like the evidence that we're showing is shoes and some AI pictures of women. Meanwhile, while we kind of argue about that, the president says, well, I told them to not kill those 8 AI women. And they said, okay, we won't kill those 8 AI women because they don't exist or because we've already released them. They're not going to be executed. And the president can be like, we're heroes. We stopped them from killing, even though last 2 weeks ago you were going to kill him too. So it's very confusing. And Iran should have put that statement out. Iran should have said, well, hold on a second. Didn't you say you were going to kill all of us a few days ago? Now you're suddenly concerned about these women? Yes, Flux in the chat, it is a Shonda. I thought that at first, I thought it's a sandal. It's a Shonda. Yeah, it's a Shonda. But I want to make it very clear. I'm not talking about Auschwitz. I'm just talking about how the same images and the same propaganda about that are being employed today. And to look at it from a very similar point of view, to try to compare and contrast the two. And if you do that, you recognize that something's off. If you do that, you recognize that something's not right. If you do that, you recognize that you're being lied to. And it's too much for some people to deal with, I think. So they ignore it. They look the other way. It's too much. I get it too. I understand because, I mean, who wants to think, my government is putting fake pictures of women on the internet claiming that some government is going to kill them? That's their evidence. That's their proof. And then our government says, actually, we stopped them from killing them. And then we're the heroes and Iran's still the villain. Like, who wants to admit that their government would lie to that degree? Not many people, I don't think anybody wants to admit that, but not many people are willing to admit that. We have to be careful too, all of you in the chat and those of you listening in the audio portion of the Secret Teachings archive. We have to be careful that we don't get trapped in an echo chamber. Because sometimes, I find myself, I hear that reverberation and I say, I got to get out of that echo chamber. It's not good to be in an echo chamber. We have to be careful we don't get trapped in that echo chamber. So I want to point something else out to you now. It's not just that it's bad propaganda. It's that I noted this already, but I want to focus on this for a moment. I feel like the fact that it's sexual, like they have to make it sexual. The Iranian government said that there were men involved. Why are we only asking to free the women? Why not free the men? Because again, just a few weeks ago, the New York Post and others were saying that they just killed everybody. So the men aren't important now? What about the children? How can we say we want to save these 8 women and then we just double tap the school? None of it makes any sense. It's just plot hole, plot hole, plot hole, plot hole, plot hole, plot hole. And I think the general public just is happy with the blockbuster. They're just happy with the, what do they call it? It's a popcorn flick. It doesn't have to really make any sense. It's just, entertaining. It's something to take my mind off of things. And that's it. But the fact that they got to make it explicit sexually, that's something else. That's something else entirely. I want to show you something. When we started bombing Iran for the first time, this was posted on social media along with a bunch of other very similar videos. This was posted on social media along with a bunch of women dancing, as I referenced earlier. And what this video is it's just terrible propaganda. The caption says, "This is beautiful." And it shows a woman in a full body outfit I can tell you what it's called. I can go through, there's like 10 different names for 10 different types of coverings. But the last time I did that, people just told me I was an Islamic cuck. So I guess just, doesn't really matter to go into the details and facts. But let's just, look at this video. And, if it just stopped where the woman had the clothing taken off and she's just in a shirt and with an American flag, that would be one thing. And it says the revolution is here, as if Iranians want to wave American flags. No, they want to burn American flags because we have poisoned their children, cut off their water supplies. We have murdered families generation after generation. We have backed their enemies. We have backed intelligence agencies operating inside of their country to kill their government officials, to kill their cultural heroes, to kill people that had disagreements with Israel. They've sent in and they've backed, our government has, Israeli agents to go after protesters who might be protesting not against Iran, but against Israel. I'm sure that the Iranians are very, very excited to wave American flags. But if it just stopped there, it would be one thing. But no, it went further, because then they gave the woman an Israeli flag in the video. And where this is being recorded, right? All these videos are being recorded in some warehouse in Hollywood or in Tel Aviv. And I had commented on this video and said, great, now the women can be porno girls in Israeli pornography. That's liberation. And people said mean things to me in response. And then you learn, recently, Leonard Ravinsky died, the founder of OnlyFans, billionaire, Israeli. And then you get this story. This story just came out a few days ago. It's a pretty important story. For those of you watching, it's taking a moment to load. Israel is set to host the largest Pride festival ever. This is what Israel is. Israel will host the Middle East's largest ever LGBTQ festival in the summer, with organizers planning to build a veritable Pride city at the Dead Sea. You mean Sodom and Gomorrah. The new Pride Festival will transform a section of the Judean desert into a party destination with 15 hotels and beach complexes, plus parties and performances running around the clock, according to the Jerusalem Post. Actually, more like running around the cock. The festival is slated to start on June 1st and run for 4 days, serving as the largest such event ever held in the Middle East. And yet Christian America backs this. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another attack on this event. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another act of terrorism where the Israeli government murders their own civilians who are in some sexual Sodom and Gomorrah orgy and then blames it on Arabs and Muslims. They say the ultimate goal of the festival is to create a multi-generational pride city to unite locals and tourists. So literally just recreating Sodom and Gomorrah. They say the festival is also set to highlight the Dead Sea as a key getaway for LGBTQ visitors. It's great, isn't it? And they are prideful of that. And if you point that out, well, Iran doesn't like gays. So if you come to Israel, we love gays. I'm kind of confused. Doesn't really make any sense to me, but, it is what it is. I want to point this out to you on the main theme of tonight's show. NBC News reported back in July, and this isn't just NBC News, this is the University of Clemson and a company that does analytics, or social media analytics specifically, called Aletheia. And they did an investigation. This is, again, Aletheia and Clemson University, looking at 400 accounts on social media. Or at least this is what they discovered, 400 accounts. Part of the pro-Trump, pro-conservative, pro-MAGA social media presence. And what they found was that those identified accounts were actually bots. A previously unreported network of hundreds of accounts on X is using artificial intelligence to automatically reply to conservatives with positive messages about people in the Trump administration. In other words, if I post something about Pete Hegseth being a drunk, these bot accounts are supposed to post something positive, like Pete Hegseth actually saved a bunch of innocent Iranian women, even though he likes to sexually assault American women, reportedly. From what I've read, he is really concerned with those Iranian women who he also simultaneously wants to have a genocide, wants to have a crusade against, to murder. Because it all makes sense, doesn't it? The guy who reportedly has sexually assaulted American women and who wants to murder Arabs and Persians and anybody else who isn't white and Christian also wants to save those women while abusing his own people. It makes perfect sense to me. But with the MAGA movement split over the administration's handling of files involving deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, that's putting it mildly, the account's messaging has broken, offering contradictory statements on the issue and revealing the AI-fueled nature of the accounts. In other words, people started asking questions. People that were otherwise pro-MAGA started asking questions about why they're covering up for cannibals and blood drinkers and pedophiles and human traffickers and billionaire elitist Christian Zionists and Jews. And in the process, I was trying to get to the show without saying Jews. Within the process of doing that, it kind of broke the algorithm, and these accounts started posting contradictory things. And so the red alarms went off. Beep, 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 beep. We have a problem. We have a problem. We have a problem. And what Clemson University and Alethea found was that there's a network of at least 400 identified bots. We don't know how influential some of those were or how uninfluential other ones were. The number is likely far larger. And it said these accounts offer consistent praise for key Trump figures, particularly support for Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Now, for anybody who would say, well, that's just NBC News, why would you trust them? Well, the thing is, it's funny you say that, because the thing is, I don't trust any news outlet. However, when the left was doing this, you did trust NBC News when they finally admitted this with all the other news outlets, that this is what, the Twitter files, this is what social media companies were doing. You were happy to cite NBC News when it was the evil left doing it. Now that it's the right doing it, it's your party doing it, it's your identifying little button or badge that's doing it, suddenly it's a different story, isn't it? Suddenly you can't trust NBC News. Suddenly the Trump administration wouldn't do that. Why wouldn't they do it? It's just another way to propagandize the public, to work for votes. For those of you who want to look up this story, type in MAGA bot network on X, Trump Epstein backlash, NBC News, July 20th, 2025 is the date. The author is a Kevin Collier. As often is the case with bot accounts, those viewed by NBC News tended to have only a few dozen followers, and their posts rarely get many views. But a large audience does not appear to be the point. Their effectiveness, if they have any, is in the hope that they contribute to a partisan echo chamber and that in mass they can manage, or rather massage, perceptions, said Darren Linville, and manage perceptions, the director of Clemson University's Media Forensic Hub, which studies online disinformation campaigns. And these are the ones, not all of them, but many of them were the ones that were not really there to, quote, get engagement. These are just the ones that just post kind of random stuff, every day posting, but it's fake. They're not even people. Why would you dehumanize people like that? No, you misunderstand. They're literally not people. Literally not people. It's totally fake. And by the way, many of those videos of those Iranian women dancing, celebrating the U.S. bombing, many of those videos have been now removed from the internet because people like myself pointed out that how exactly were Iranian women publishing those videos in a country that did not have internet access? That doesn't make any sense either. We cut off their internet. They shut off their internet. Nobody's got internet, but they're posting these videos on social media. Doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. I can't be the only person who sees this. I know I'm not based on our chat tonight, but I can't be the only person who notices this. You can't be the only person who notices this. And now that people have pointed this out, it turns out many of those videos were actually removed from social media. Isn't that convenient? That's how it works. It just gets memory hold, and you never see it again. I don't know what we're supposed to do. If anybody has recommendations, I'll take them. What we're supposed to do about the just what I'm explaining, how we're supposed to handle this. Are we supposed to just ignore it? That might be the best thing we can do, but it has such an effect on other people and it drives the conversation that it's kind of a responsibility that we have to point this stuff out and to make it clear that this stuff is fake. I guess all of us have our own part that we can play in this. We can all do our own thing, play our own part. I guess that's what I'm doing here on the Secret Teachings, and I guess that's what you guys all do, you ladies all do in your respective communities and families and the people that you spend time with. It's really all that you can do. Obviously, people that don't want to acknowledge this stuff aren't going to acknowledge it anyway. You can show it to them, and they're like, no, those are definitely 8 real women. Sure, that looks totally real to me. I was able to find one video of some of these people dancing. They've taken down most of the other videos, but this was one of the supposedly an Iranian woman dancing, celebrating the liberation of her country. She's been liberated. Remember this video? And then it turns out, I think if we read, I never actually read this whole thing. She says, "This is me on the left with my beloved cousin whom I lost last week. He would be alive if there was no Islamic regime. I'm writing this with tearful eyes." So I think what happened is that this woman, if I remember this correctly, what's this video? What a whore. I believe her cousin was murdered by airstrikes carried out by the Americans. So she's dancing. Oh, it's so fun. I love airstrikes on civilian targets. And then her family gets murdered. And then, oh, it's so sad. Oh, it's not so exciting anymore. Quite frankly, honestly, I would actually be in support of, I would be a fan if I watched this video. And rather than her boobs popping out, which is what a lot of guys are hoping for, I'd actually be excited. I'd be very happy if Iranian, what would they be called in Iran? I guess it would be like the police. I would be happy if the police busted into her house and threw a trash bag on her and drug her out the door. I'd be like, oh, hell, I'll pay for that. I'm not going to pay for this Israeli OnlyFans pornography, but I would pay to watch Iranian officials come into this woman's house, put a trash bag over her, and remove her from the place, and put her under investigation for being a foreign agent, which is probably what she is. She's probably, as many people in the chat have pointed out, a Mossad agent. And the one video I'm thinking of that I was trying to find of some woman that it was not sexual. She was dancing with her friends or something, watching the TV. Oh, we love America bombing Iran. It's so great. Well, it turns out she was a Mossad agent, and then that story disappeared. I mean, look at these women are so disgusting. Look at this. And if you're a girl, you have to agree with this, really. I mean, how could you disagree that this woman is disgusting? It's not even necessarily about what she's wearing or how she's acting. It's that you're sexualizing war. Like, outside of this woman's door, supposedly, is a school getting blown up. Not only being blown up, being double or triple tapped. And this is what you do? You dance? Remember all those videos from Venezuela? All the Venezuelans they're celebrating, and it turns out they weren't. I mean, there probably were some people that were celebrating, I'm sure. I mean, again, if a foreign country were to attack the United States in the United States, were to take control of Washington, what do you think would be happening? Do you think, I'm pretty sure what would be happening is that the average American would be split right down the middle. Whatever country did it, one side would be excited, one side would be terrified. And I think it would depend on who the president was at the time. So if a foreign country had done that when Biden was president, the Democrats would resist. The Republicans would say, actually, it's okay, no big deal. If it was Trump, then it would be the conservatives who would resist, and it would be the liberals who'd be like, actually, it's no big deal. So, of course, there's going to be some people that rebel. There's always people that don't like the government. I mean, there is a handful of like communist Marxist radicals here in Japan. I saw them one time. I was on a bus, actually. I got off a train, got on a bus, and I forget where we were going, but I heard this like chanting outside. I looked out the window, and there was the most organized, orderly, clean, well-dressed protest I've ever seen in my life. And there was like 17 people just kind of marching in order. And then that was it. And so there's some of those people over here too. But the point is, most of those Venezuelan videos weren't even from Venezuela. And so this is where you have to start breaking things down and trying to understand the context of any particular story. Because, for example, in Venezuela, a lot of the videos weren't from Venezuela, but they were real videos. In other cases, they were fake videos. They were AI-generated videos. So what's real? What's not real? Sometimes that's not necessarily the most important question. I keep watching this video because I'm just waiting. I'm hoping that maybe I'm hoping maybe they come in and they put a hefty bag over her and take her out. I really hope so. I'd like to see that. See, this is, I say that, kind of in a almost a morbid way, but like really seriously, if I'm just confused about why moral Christians think that this is acceptable, like are advocates of this. Why moral Christians are in support of the largest pride festival ever. I don't know, but it kind of sounds to me like the Muslims, the Arabs, the Islamicists, the Persians. It kind of sounds like, the Middle East might actually be a lot different than what we've been told that it is. In the same way that a lot of people are surprised of how different the U.S. is when they visit the U.S. Some of the videos my wife watches, these Japanese YouTubers, they come to the U.S., they're like, oh, well, it's like zombie movie. Yeah, it's like a zombie movie. It is. There's like people walking around like The Walking Dead. It is like a zombie movie. It's not just Manhattan and downtown L.A. It's not just the Dodgers and the Yankees. It's a cesspit of filth. And it's a cesspit of filth because of the same people throwing this festival on the Dead Sea, resurrecting Sodom and Gomorrah. These are the same people that are behind this woman dancing. Because for some reason, quote, liberation is tits and ass. Wasn't there like a terrible rap song? It was like ass and titties, ass and titties, ass and titties. That's an Israeli song. That's all that these people think about. It's all they care about. And it's not just because that's my opinion. It's because that's what their propaganda is. Their propaganda is almost exclusively sexual. Let me show you an example of that. Here is IDF babes. There's a bunch of these sites, there's a bunch of these accounts on various platforms and social media sites. This is IDF babes. I'm showing you this for a couple of reasons. I'm showing this, number one, because it corresponds to the other video that was playing in the background there. Iranians celebrating. Yeah. Iranians are celebrating. They're so excited. And it also correlates with the next level of American propaganda going beyond simple bot accounts that I'm going to show you here in a moment. So here's the IDF Babes page. Look at this. This is how they try to convince you that the IDF are, quote, moral. First of all, even if they were, quote, moral on the battlefield, I feel like a military that encourages you to support them based on tits and ass is not a very moral military. You can see some of these pictures here. Look at this. Now, we'll go back to that in a second, but I'm showing you that because this is the New York Times that just published this article on April 17th. Hundreds of fake pro-Trump avatars emerge on social media. And among some of the images here that you'll see on your screen, I described some of them earlier. You've got young Instagram-looking women. You've got black women. You've got like old white guys. You've got old black guys. You got like Hispanic women. But then if you scroll down and you read the whole article, or you don't even have to read it, you could just look at type in fake profiles Trump and look at the images on Google. I pulled some of them up separately. Here's one of them. And these images that if you can't see them, I'll describe them to you. These images are a bunch of, I mean, obviously it's the most fake thing that's ever been posted to the internet, except, well, maybe it's too early to say that, but I was going to say David Wilcock videos. It's just ingrained in my head. I apologize. But these, it's just like fake, very clearly fake, supposedly American women in military uniforms, standing in front of like fighter jets or military bases. It's all very clearly fake, like obviously fake. And you look at it, and then you go back to the IDF page, and I'm looking at the same thing here. It might not be as explicit, but if you look at this IDF page, like, look at this. These are Instagram whores dressed like soldiers trying to encourage people to join the IDF or to support the IDF. I mean, I'm not saying that women haven't been used to encourage men to join the military before, but this is a little bit different. Like, this is basically pornography. And quite frankly, I'm a principled person, so I need, seriously, I will need Viagra to get an erection after looking at these people because they're so fucking repulsive. He doesn't like them because they're Jews. I'm sorry, I don't think some of these people are even people. What, because they're Jews, Ryan? No, I think they're AI. That's what I think, most of them. And then here we find the president doing the same thing. We find the White House doing the same thing. The artificial intelligence-generated fake influencers have surged on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube in an apparent bid to hook conservative voters. And if you won't vote because some cute girl said to do so, if you won't vote because some hardworking black man said to do so, if you won't vote because some old liberal-looking white guy told you to do so, if you won't vote because some Hispanic woman told you to do so, if you won't vote because some black American soldier told you to do so, or some old white guy told you to do so, or some police officer told you to do so, maybe you'll vote if they're attractive women in the military. As if that says something about our society that's positive, that we're sending young, attractive women who maybe, I don't know if they really want to save the country, could bear children in solid relationships and teach them values. We're sending those women, if people think these are real, they're sending these women to die for Israel. I know the president said he wasn't controlled by Israel, but I just feel like it's weird that the only two countries that I see online that are using this type of propaganda are Israel and America. When Israel is using these kinds of images that you see on your screen, which is basically like military pornography, like literally, it's like softcore pornography. For those of you who can't see this. And most of these girls aren't even real. A lot of this is AI. And when the Israelis are using this to convince people to support the most moral military in the world, and we find out that the White House is doing the same thing, I just can't help but think These two things are similar. I just can't help but think they could be put into the same category, that the same people that are making AI videos of American women or American looking women with American flags who are ready to go fight and die for the country, which is a weird thing to me. You won't make a sandwich, but you'll go put yourself in harm's way and possibly get your legs blown off. I guess if you get your legs blown off, there's always OnlyFans, the amputee section. I'm sure there's a bunch of perverts that would pay for that, so that then they can take the money from OnlyFans and pump it back into the IDF, which is what OnlyFans really was. It was like a money laundering operation for the IDF. And if you don't believe me, I feel compelled to show it to you because it just sounds like I'm making stuff up, but I'm not. I believe it was Rolling Stone and some others that had initially reported it. They give money to the Israel lobby and they give money to the IDF. Yeah, I found it. Here it is. OnlyFans owner pledged $11 million. This is just one instance. $11 million. The one that was actually found in documents. Leonard Davinsky. He denies giving that money. Oh, but he gave that money, and then turns out he was giving money to the IDF as well. So in other words, let's just get this straight. Let's smooth this over. People that post pornography of I don't know what this is, IDF women, whatever this is supposed to be, are the same ones making, not as explicit, I'm sure it will become more explicit, images of American-looking women encouraging you to join the military or at least support the military, all of them with the same captions, "I'm new here and I love God, America, and Trump." Oh my God, it's so disgusting, isn't it? Like, I might actually throw up. The same people doing that are the same ones that ran OnlyFans, and they took that money and they dumped it into AIPAC and they dumped it into the IDF to vote for wars and to finance those wars. That's right. So the people that are online busting a nut to these fake AI Jew girls and thinking that these American patriot soldiers are going to DM them. Oh, she loves God and America. I love God and America and Trump. Maybe she'll be my wife. It's just our populate. People make fun of Japan for all the anime stuff. Our population is far more pathetic than that. Because if you study why people are attracted to those things, it's like scientific. This isn't even scientific. This is just the most fake, ridiculous bullshit that's ever been posted to the internet outside of, again, I know it's too early, but David Wilcock stuff. Well, not even really. David Wilcock stuff, let's be honest. It wasn't necessarily as bad as like Corey Good or Billy Carson or something. So we'll be fair to David in retrospect. But the point is, some of the most fake stuff that have ever been posted to the internet. And when you find out that it's basically the same trash that the IDF is posting, look at these videos. When you find out it's the same trash, you come to the conclusion that, oh, it's the same people that are doing this and the same people that are putting these pictures out there encouraging you to support God and America and Trump, i.e. to support whatever the president does without asking questions, which is kind of the opposite of patriotism. But to do these things in support of a war against Iran, and you find the Israelis are doing the same thing with their own people, support the IDF, maybe you'll get a BJ. Look at those titties. Don't look at the school being blown up. Don't look at the kids being raped. Don't look at the prisoners that are being tortured and then raped by a dog. Don't look at any of that. Look at these titties. That's what they're saying. That's what they're telling you. It's repulsive. It's disgusting. And then we learn about this. Generative AI for good. This is an Israeli news article that I dug up. It says, at Calcalist's AI conference in 2025 in Tel Aviv, Shiren Lemdovsky Somek, CEO of Generative AI for Good, spoke to CTech about utilizing deepfake technology to amplify silenced voices and raise awareness for social justice causes, including domestic violence, anti-Semitism, and the Jewish and Israeli narrative. Not the truth, just the narrative. Whatever they want that narrative to be, that's what they're going to amplify using deepfake technology. In other words, videos of women, or maybe men in some cases, but usually women, Videos of women who have been abused by Iranians. Not a real video, not real pictures, but it looks real. And if you find out that it's not real, well, that's okay, because ultimately it served the purpose of alerting people to the facts. Even though they're not facts, it's made up. And here's an example of that. Here's an example of this Israeli AI for the good, generative AI for the good deepfake technology video, or they make these for, just pictures too. This video is fake. I'm going to play the video for you. This video is completely fake. It was made by these people. It's all AI. And when you say, hey, it's AI, it's not real, they say, well, okay, it's not real, but it still is important to show evidence of what's happening. And for some reason that works on some people. For me, I think, and I say, but if you just had the evidence, just show us the evidence. Why make fake videos? Why make fake videos and pictures and put them on the internet? Just show me the evidence. I don't need a video telling me that Hamas beheaded babies and this is a reenactment, or this is an AI video of what would have happened if they actually did it. I don't need that. I need the video of someone actually beheading the baby. I don't want to see that, but I'm going to need some proof if you want me to just believe this. I don't want to see those horrible things, but I need some evidence of it. I'm not just going to believe you, especially when the people that have been telling us these things are the ones that lied to us about babies in incubators and Germans with babies on the ends of bayonets. I feel like you just keep using the same narrative over and over and over again. I don't believe you. I don't believe that a pile of shoes is proof that the Iranian government killed a bunch of people. Well, they killed them so good their shoes fell off? They knocked them right out of their shoes? What is this, a cartoon? It obviously isn't reality. And what this video is, well, I'll show this to you in a moment from my new book. Let me play the video first. Well, I still have that other video playing in the background. Excuse me. That woman is still dancing somewhere on my feed. Hold on a second. She's still dancing. Hold on. She's very excited that her cousin was killed by American airstrikes. She's been dancing for about 30 minutes now. All right, let's play this. Let's play this video. I already want to donate. Remember, this is all fake. Now, some of these other videos that they cut together might be real, but the woman speaking is fake. Okay, so obviously you can't understand what she's saying. So here's what she says. I'll read it to you. They would take us in groups of 7 or 8 women at a time to a certain room, and I thought they would only beat us there. They took 7 to 8 women. They raped us in groups. Morel, 34 years old, survivor of sexual violence by the Iranian regime, however, is fake. She's not real. They took them in groups of 7 or 8 people. Does she mean like the 7 or 8 people that the president said the Iranians were going to kill? And then the president said, don't worry, we stopped them from killing these women? The same president who said that those women were going to be murdered by American weapons in just a few days if Iran didn't make a deal. Trump was going to kill the whole civilization, and then a few days later he's concerned about 8 women, and the 8 women narrative is literally being used by generative AI for good, an Israeli AI company that is putting together fake videos of women speaking about how they were sexually assaulted. And yet the videos are admittedly fake to amplify silenced voices and raise awareness for social issues, social causes, including things like domestic violence, anti-Semitism, Jewish and Israeli narratives, things that you would think, especially considering that, anti-Semitism is up by thousands of percent by whatever voodoo they've done. Well, I don't want to say that. Voodoo's not what people think it is, but, I guess the general public thinks it is. So I'll say, whatever voodoo they've done. But they think that it's up so high. So just show me the evidence. It's like, and they talk about, I don't know, white people attacking black people. Show me the evidence. I just don't see it happening very often, except these exploited stories in the press with no context. Show me the videos of the actual women. I don't need to see her raped. I mean, the Israelis film it, of course, when they do it, but I don't need to see the woman raped or the dog penetrate the guy. All I need to know is I want to see the person who actually experienced that horrible thing. I want to see them, at the very least, the real version of them, give their own testimony. I don't need an AI version of some random person or a composite of a bunch of people telling me that she was raped. She was not raped because she's not a real person. Ryan, you're saying that because she's a Jew. No, I don't think you understand. She's not a real person because she's AI. She's fake. He's not real. So you just hate Jews. Again, she's not real because she's AI. I won't be surprised if at some point very soon, maybe even this weekend, who knows, we don't start hearing that generative AI for good and these fake videos of people claiming that they were murdered or, I mean, that sounds absurd, but like, again, it would be a composite video of someone claiming that they were murdered. You'd be like, how are they murdered? They're alive. Well, again, it's a fake video. This is what they would have said if they lived. But when you get these videos of people claiming they were murdered or people claiming they were raped or they were tortured or they were, beaten because they were gay or something or queer, whatever the case might be, that if any of those people that are making those claims in the videos are supposed to be Jewish, that will now be a thing called anti-Semitism as it applies to AI. So if you don't like an AI video of someone who's Jewish, completely fake, the person doesn't exist, you don't agree with it, you don't like it, you don't share it, you're maybe you're even critical of it. That's also anti-Semitic. As Jackie says in the chat, sarcasm alert, but she could be real. Yeah, by the way, for those of you who were here last night, at least one of those videos I played of Mr. Wilcock, people claimed who had never watched David before that they were AI generated. Because now you can take things that are real and say they're fake and take things that are fake and say that they're real. That's where we find ourselves. Generative AI for good is the type of company, I don't believe it's the company, but it's the type of company behind creating things like those fake American soldiers that want you to join the military or want you to at least support the military. The same types of companies behind making these IDF babe accounts. It's fake. Marl, 34 years old, is not the survivor of sexual violence. He's not a real person. But even if it's not sexually explicit like women in bikinis, it's sexual violence because everything with these folks apparently has to be sexual. Everything. And remember, she says 8 women. It's 7 to 8 women. It's the same thing that the president posted. It's 8 women. This is an admittedly fake video about how 8 women are raped and tortured by the Iranians. There's no evidence of it. And for anybody who says, you're claiming the Iranians don't rape women? I'm sorry. You want me to back down and say, I'm sorry, okay, they rape women. I guess the video is real when it's not. And not acknowledge the fact that literally in my lifetime, every presidential administration, even before I was fully aware of my surroundings. Like every president, I'm pretty sure, has been accused of sexual assault, like in vicious, malicious ways. Trump has been. Biden has been. Biden wasn't just accused of it. His daughter wrote in her diary that she was sexually abused or exposed to sexually abusive situations by Joe Biden. Maybe Obama wasn't as accused of that. Although with the spirit cooking stuff and the Pizzagate stuff, maybe he was. And George Bush and Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's like the OG of sexual abuse. So if it's 8 women, and Jackie asks an interesting question, Hermit Ventures references that question in response. Why is it 8 women? Well, it probably has some numerological significance, or they feel that if they were to say 5 women, that's not severe enough. If they were to say maybe 10 women, that seems like it's unrealistic. So 8's a healthy number. I was actually just having this debate the other day in my own head. I was thinking about transferring some of my American money to Japanese currency, and I was trying to decide what amount do I want to transfer. Do I want to transfer like 100 or 500? 500, like 100 seems like, okay, it's just a quick exchange. 500, if I'm going to go that high, then 500's like, that seems like it's in the middle. If I go to 1,000, that might be too much right now. Maybe I'll go like 7, 8. I ended up making the decision of 8. I thought that's a healthy number. So maybe it's the same type of thing. Or maybe, as Misto Stoko said, maybe 8 is hate. They hate women. So I mean, that's true too. So I suppose that could be part of it. But that's a good point. Remember, this is fake. And if you want more proof that all of this stuff is fake, I've got a couple of other things for you that you're going to want to read, or you're going to want to listen to. One of them here, if I can find it, is here it is. This is a video that was recently posted a few days ago. Former Israeli intelligence captain Ella Kennan tells Jewish conference that she runs an influence operation out of Tel Aviv that works with over 60,000 people around the world that make our content viral. I'm not going to explain the rest of it. Just listen to what she says.
Hi, so my name is Ella Kenan. I'm a content creator, but I'm also the founder of an organization called Brightmind. What we do is, let's call it digital assets that serve the Jewish people in a more strategic manner. We got to close to 3 billion views since the beginning of the war, completely organic. We work with communities of over 60,000 people around the world that make our content viral, but also help us report anti-Semitic rhetoric and fake news, and therefore take it down, and other actions that do serve the narrative. We also create content for non-Jewish influencers that collaborate with us, and we have all sorts of things. I'll elaborate later. I offer to try to set the agenda rather than responding. I think Israelis and Jews in general, we tend to respond rather than to set the agenda and initiate. They say genocide, we explain why it's not a genocide. They say apartheid, we explain why it's not, right? So I offered Hamas is ISIS, and I offered why, and I gave a short 101 on how we can garner attention and traction around that narrative. And that worked. So in 3 to 4 days, it became the most viewed narrative online. It became viral for almost 3 months around the world, in some places even more. And it even got to Biden's speech. And I can also, I can't show you, but we have so many videos and posts of Palestinians, of Hamas officials like Abu Ubaida responding to that narrative, influencing them. So, yeah, that's where it all started.
So Israeli influencers and companies, in this case, this is a hack hate conference, talking about how they are doing their best to fight fake news by spreading fake news. We'd have to, of course, ask them how they define fake news. And for them, fake news is things they disagree with. And in order to combat things they disagree with, they admit that they spread fake news or narratives that are fake, narratives that are false. They claim it's entirely organic, and yet they can post it and it goes right up to the office of the president. And she admits to creating the Hamas is ISIS meme. Remember, you heard that in the news? Hamas is ISIS, Hamas is ISIS, Hamas is. Well, it turns out this fat slob here on this panel was responsible for that. Virtually nothing that you see about Israel in particular, but about Middle Eastern things in general, is real. It's fake. On the subject of fake influencers and AI-generated content propaganda, this video, well, actually, there's several of these videos, but I'll show you the pictures. These pictures of this MAGA influencer have gone extra mega viral when it was revealed that this MAGA influencer, who's a hot blonde girl in an American flag bikini, was actually fake, run by an Indian guy. A MAGA influencer who racked up millions of followers with patriotic content of her posing in a bikini while ice fishing, drinking Coors Light, and shooting guns has been unmasked as an Indian man who put himself through med school on the proceeds of his trickery. Sam, a 22-year-old orthopedic surgeon in training, told Wired magazine that he got the idea to sell AI-generated images of a young woman in a bikini while scrounging for money in school and trying to save up enough to immigrate to the U.S. after graduation. He turned to Google's Gemini AI for advice and decided to create a hot girl crafted specifically for the mega conservative niche after the software told him that the conservative audience, especially older men in the U.S., often has higher disposable income and is more loyal. So literally just like a digital gold digger from India. And this girl, I've seen her before online. This looks, I mean, if you glance at it, it looks, in my opinion, a little bit, I mean, it's obviously filtered, but it looks a little bit more real than these images. It looks a little bit more real than those images. According to her profile, she was a registered nurse with Jennifer Lawrence looks who offered red meat posts to lonely conservative men online. Our country is so unbelievably screwed. It's just, we might as well make fun of it. One post showed her firing a rifle with the caption, "If you want a reason to unfollow, Christ is king, abortion is murder, and all illegals must be deported." This is just some Indian guy posting this to make money for med school, which is kind of almost funny and ironic. Say what you want about Indians, but there are some Indians tend to be pretty smart. And the fact that some Indian is trying to make money to go to Islamic medical school, and all he has to do is just make a fake video and a fake picture of some fake woman. And Americans are so ignorant and so dumb and so oblivious that as long as there's an American flag and as long as someone mentions red meat and Coors Light and ice fishing and guns and shooting and bikinis, Americans are like, fuck yeah, I'll support it. He then cashed in on the AI model's appeal, selling mega-themed T-shirts. Oh, I didn't even know that. I thought it was just an account. He sold mega T-shirts. He created an account on OnlyFans competitor FanView, where paid subscribers could access lewd AI-generated content. I honestly, I actually hope that the Israelis win the propaganda war. I hope they win the Third World War. I hope that they build Sodom and Gomorrah again on the Dead Sea. And I really just hope that they obtain the victory that they think that they deserve so much, because I don't feel like we deserve to succeed. I don't. I feel like we deserve to be obliterated. I mean, this is just, quite frankly, this is just embarrassing. This is how gullible Americans are. And the thing is, Again, over here in Japan, yeah, that kind of thing happens all over the world. People are scammed by people on the internet. But over here in Japan, it's pretty popular that people have, fake relationships, or there's a lot of like AI cartoon type stuff. But with few exceptions, most people know it's fake. This stuff, a bunch of older guys in the US who love beer and football and red meat, and I'm not attacking you if you like those things, but apparently all you have to do is make a fake AI girl, and these guys give you money, not because they think it's fake and it's like it's still kind of hot and they're into hentai or something, because they think it's real. That's exponentially more crazy than thinking, oh, it's just, I know it's fake, but it's something to talk to. That's much crazier. And this guy said he was spending 30 to 50 minutes of his day making money selling this girl's content. Or I shouldn't even say girl, selling this content. Amber Geddon in the chat says, that's a better grift than what Wilcock had. And this guy actually, it seems, worked about the same amount of time putting together this stuff that Wilcock did. He would work, an hour a day putting slides together and then do a 6-hour show about the wind. This guy was doing 30 to 50 minutes a day, and he made enough money to pay for medical school. And he's right. Even in professional jobs, you can't make this amount of money. I haven't seen an easier way to make money online. So there's a good chance that a lot of people walking around with MAGA shirts on are literally supporting some Indian guy who made a bunch of money selling fake MAGA content. I really hope the Israelis win, actually. I hope they build a Sodom and Gomorrah in the middle of your fucking church. And I hope God's real, and I hope he smites them, and I hope he obliterates your church, and I hope he obliterates Washington, and I hope he obliterates all the other major capital cities around the United States that are filled with a bunch of perverts and pedophiles and scumbags that think this is cool and funny. Remember when I said all you have to do is say, I love Jesus. And if you're a degenerate drug addict, abuser of women like Russell Brand, you get a book deal and you go on Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan and everybody else. If you're a degenerate liberal scumbag like Ian Carroll, all you have to do is call up Alex Jones. Hey, Alex. Yeah, well, what's going on, Ian? Can I come on the show? Yeah, you can come fly to Austin tonight. No big deal. No problem solved. You want to get popular? Just go to InfoWars. He'll have you on. Just like that. You got to have a grift. You got to, there's dupers and dupies. And Americans are the dupies. We're a whole country of dupies. Whether it's a secret space program or it's some fake blonde fan view American patriot shooting guns, ice fishing, drinking Coors Light. I mean, just what an absurd caricature. And that's what people think of Americans. The guy's literally just asking Google, how do I scam Americans? I need to know how to scam Americans. And Google Gemini says Coors Light, guns, and American flags. And so the guy goes to the prompt, Coors Light and the American flags and the big titties and the blonde hair. And then he starts pumping this stuff out, and he's selling T-shirts, and he makes enough money to go to medical school. The real question is, why aren't all of us doing this? And it's also just beautiful, too, because there are literally Americans walking around with like MAGA T-shirts on who are like, I don't want them street shitters in my country. Get them Indians out of here. Get that Kash Patel out of here. They don't even like the framed narrative of Kash Patel. Get that street shitter out of the FBI. I only want white people who cover up the pedophilia running the FBI. I only want white people doing that stuff. And they're literally wearing a shirt made by a guy in India who claimed to be a blonde girl. We are a pathetic society. This is so unbelievably embarrassing. I hope an asteroid hits our country tomorrow and obliterates just North America, just the United States. It is fucking embarrassing. And I know that a lot of you in the chat definitely agree with me on this. This is just embarrassing. And it's kind of ironic too, because people will say, "You hate America, Ryan?" No, that's the thing. I don't hate America. I just don't think America is Coors Light, hunting, red meat, and fake-titted, fake blonde, bimbo, whore, AI images of women. I think America is the Constitution. I think America is the rule of law. I think America is morals and decency. And I think it's hard work. I don't think it's whatever bullshit this is. And yes, Nathaniel, in the chat, I said, I talked about that on a recent show. But I don't even know how much of that's even real. Here's another version of that story. Scammer dupes dumb mega men with an AI model. Whoo, just send the asteroid. What else do we have here? Oh, there's one more story I wanted to cover. This was back in March. Remember this story? Pentagon identifies 4 of 6 U.S. soldiers killed in the Iran war by drone strike in Kuwait. And I think this story served two purposes. This story was very clearly it was war propaganda, whatever you think about that. And I think the second thing this story was, I think it was a plant. I think it was used as a plant to cover up for the fact that the White House was going to start pumping out a bunch of fake AI garbage. You know, the AI bot thing was last year, and that from Clemson University brought exposure to how the White House was employing MAGA bots. Sounds like, you know, I don't know, Transformers or Gundam Wing or something, Megabots. Megabots a symbol. But they were employing Megabots. And then we learned in April, hundreds of fake pro-Trump avatars emerged on social media. That's what we've covered tonight with the IDF babes. But if we go to this other story, Pentagon identifies 4 of 6 U.S. soldiers killed in Iran. Remember how this story was presented as fake? And of course, a lot of these stories are fake. Jessica Lynch, real person, totally fake story. She testified to Congress, if I recall, saying they made it all up. This story, I'm pretty sure these people are real, but the story's just war propaganda. Okay, but beyond that, remember when people were claiming back in March that these 4 soldiers were fake because they all had the same background? I entertained that for about 10 seconds, and then I thought, well, I mean, I'm not in the military. I would assume, I don't know what their background is, like what they do in the military. I didn't even read into it at that point, but I was looking at it and I thought maybe since they're American soldiers, they took pictures in front of American flags. I thought maybe that would be an adequate explanation for why they all have the same background, or I guess relatively the same angle and the same background, because it's the angle's different in every picture, which maybe makes it arguably more fake, because I would think that if they're taking pictures one after another, it would be the same exact angle. But okay, whatever the case might be, the fact is, I don't think that this was necessarily a series of fake pictures. I think that it was a fake story, or at least it was war propaganda, a manipulated story. But when you look at this image, people were saying it was fake. I don't know if this one was fake. I think what happened was people said this was fake. The idea that it was fake circulated, and they set the precedent for getting the public to think, oh, it's all fake. And then the White House said, no, actually, it's real. Why would you think if a bunch of American soldier pictures were fake? And then what happened was they set the precedent for unveiling a few weeks later. Again, this was in March. And a few weeks later, they unveiled all this garbage. AI, all AI. Blacks, Hispanics, men, women, old, young, etc. Police, hardworking American soldiers, you name it. I think it was propaganda to prepare the public for the unveiling of actual fake stuff. So when people point out, hey, look, these influencers are all saying the same thing. They're fake. They're not real. AI's gotten really good, hasn't it? They say, oh, what, you're the same people that said that those 4 soldiers with the American flags were fake. That's what they do. That's part of the propaganda. You unleash your AI bots and your AI videos and images before you do that, so you can set the groundwork to dispel the rumors that all that's fake. You release something that's real, start a rumor about it being fake, and then you step in later to poison the well and say, actually, it's real. implying that anything that's released from here on out will also be real, no matter how fake it looks. That's what this is. That's all this is. Fake, 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 fake. I'll quote Seinfeld. You faked them all? Fake, 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 fake. It's all fake. It's not real. Is this really how it ends? Is this just kind of how, like, is this how it all, is this how the country ends? I mean, the Roman Empire had a really cool collapse over hundreds or, I mean, just a very long time, hundreds and hundreds of years. We don't get a cool collapse. We get a bunch of fat, drunk American, quote, patriots who are giving money to an Indian guy to go to medical school thinking he's a hot blonde girl that might give him a handy sometime or at least a sweet message. That's how our country ends. I want a better ending. I don't know about you. I want a better ending. I want at least an alternative ending because this ending sucks. I want to thank you all for tuning into the show tonight. tstradio.info, rdgable@yahoo.com. Compared to last night's 5-hour marathon, tonight went very quickly. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. I respect that so many of you will take the time out of your mornings, afternoons, nights, whenever, to listen to the show. And those of you who have subscribed to the show or you've got a copy of one of my books, thank you for putting your hard-earned money into something that you see to be valuable. That's humbling to me, and I really appreciate and I respect those of you who are able to do that and who do that. For those of you who don't know, who only see this on YouTube, this is not a YouTube show. We are Monday through Friday, 5 nights a week, brand new each night. tstradio.info is the website. It's a very simple website. I will get a better one at some point, but it's just so expensive, and I as the content's what's important to me. But tstradio.info, rdgable@yahoo.com. Please support the show. Thank you, Tim Curley, in the chat for publishing every couple of minutes the buy me a coffee link, or the maybe you put the book links in there as well, and also the links to our other social media pages. It's all linked up below in the show description, unless you're on Ground Zero Plus. If you're on Ground Zero Plus, then you'll have to go to their page that they have for us, or you'll have to just go to our website. The free archive is free. There are ads in it. If you don't like the ads, that's cool. I don't like the ads either. But if you don't like the ads, you can sign up to the ad-free show. When I say subscribe, I don't mean necessarily just click the YouTube button. I mean subscribe to the show online. For those of you watching, this is my Protocols of Goyim book. You can read about some of the stuff that we talked about tonight in this book. I have an entire section on this type of stuff, including the fake hostage videos that the Israelis released where the guy's smiling in a tunnel that's supposed to be used to smuggle troops. It's just like, it makes no sense. It's just it's bad Hollywood production. It's like B-movie level. It's really bad. Protocols of Goyim, you can get a copy. Click the link to Stripe there on the website, or you can utilize Cash App as well. I also have other books like Occult Arcana, and there's the subscribe tab on the website. That's for those of you who are watching. For those of you who are listening, I think you already know that anyway. I also want to ask anybody who has the ability to leave us a review on Apple. That would really help the show out. And I want to thank everybody in the chat. I see Deborah's in the chat, Hermit Ventures, Nathaniel, Tim Curley, Flux. I see Gilly Audio in the chat. I don't know if I've seen you in there before. Amber Gedden is, of course, here. Brent Lee Howell, Chris V is here. Did I say Joe Ryder? Joe Ryder is here. Patriot Girl is here. Hello, Patriot Girl. Thank you for joining us. Goffy in the chat. Dr. Jesse W. Haywood is here as well. Jay is here. And if I missed you, I know we've had a lot of listeners in the chat tonight. If I scroll back up through this, I've mentioned Jackie several times. And Brundell as well is in the chat with us tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of the Secret Teachings. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good night, good weekend. I am going to go watch some hockey to take my mind off of all this stuff. Stay safe, stay informed, stay healthy. I'll talk to you on the next broadcast. Have a great weekend.